Well, there have been a lot of discussions on that loan of the federal government. So the president, Muhammadu Buhari, proposed to borrow lend, from the National Assembly 7 days after. People still talking about it. Public opinion still high. We have our in-house data analyst, Babajide Ogunsowo, to help us with the latest and help us understand the figures and the facts. Babajide, thanks for joining us on the News at 10.
Thanks.
People have asked this question. $29.9 billion, is that too high?
It depends on how you look at it. Let's look at it with three perspectives. The first is there a need for the loan? And if we look at when the government came in May last year, external reserves was $28.5 billion. As at this morning, external reserve is only $24 billion. So we've seen a decline of $4.5 billion. That clearly shows and gives us an indication that there's a need for extra cash into the economy. The second thing that we need to also look at is what will the funds be used for? Now, what we have is an indicative summary of what the government has said the monies will be used for. So they've said $11 billion will be pumped into projects and programs, and they said that $10 billion will go into special infrastructure. So cumulatively, we know between projects and infrastructure, 73% of the money will be utilized. But what's perhaps most important is the third reason, and that's to look at the results that we expect if we do get $29.6 billion. But what's interesting is something mysteriously happened exactly about 3 decades ago when President Buhari was the president then, in 1984, head of state, was that there was so much economic crisis over a figure he had talked about. And that figure was exactly $29.9 billion as well.
There it is, $30 billion.
Exactly.
Naira, rather, as at then.
So then the president had come out with a figure of 29.9. Exact figure he's talking about today. So it makes us believe that perhaps that is his most favorite number. So then we were looking at 29.9 billion naira as our debt, the favorite number of the president. Today we are looking at $29.9 billion as potential monies that we want to borrow. But what Nigerians are really concerned about is that, do we potentially have a history of borrowing and it's impacting on the economy? And what the evidence clearly shows right now is that whenever external borrowing does go up, real GDP does decline. In simple terms, it means that there's no direct correlation between our thirst for external funds and economic growth.
You've given a lot of thought to this. So should we borrow or should we not borrow?
We need to borrow, because we only have two options out of this thing. Is that we borrow, we don't borrow. But we need to really look at making more money. When the Indian Prime Minister came in, Narendra Modi, and it was with the IMF chief, and they were talking about India borrowing some money. Here's what he said. He said, India doesn't need money. He says India needs ideas. So what we need to look at is keep an eye on the need to be able to pump more money into the economy, but also keep an eye on ideas. And I'll give you a quick example of why we need to raise more income and put more money into the economy. Just last year, the United States spent $3.4 trillion for its approximately 320 million people. That's, in simple terms, an average of $10,500 per person. In Nigeria, we're looking at 6 trillion naira for just 180, or just 66 trillion naira for 186 million people. In simple terms, that's just an average of $100 per person in Nigeria compared to $10,500 in the United States. Here's what it means. For every $100 the United States government spends, the Nigerian government only spends $1. So the economy really does need money to reflate it. But though we need more money, we need to clearly articulate how these monies will be spent and how these monies will be used to grow the economy, because the evidence currently shows our external debt, based on the evidence from 1999 to 2015, external debt doesn't correlate with economic growth.
Breaking down the facts and figures. Thanks a lot for joining us, Babajide.